right back. Just have to grab something.
I don't see anyone typing in this chat. Should I type in the chat? Oh
I'm
my
typing,
goodness.
I'm typing, I'm coming.
I was like, am I the only person who's be typing in the chat?
You all don't really want to know what I do during
You see,
asynchronous
I just
learning.
added something. You can't see what I added.
Uh,
Not yet. Oh my god.
I'm gonna be professional, but I really go get a cup of coffee. But I'll type something in the chat.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if it's just the students or if it's me. So I need some help. Uh, Bret Hart. Draft and revise writing. You said draft and or revise writing. What is? Maybe I don't know what I'm typing. What is that?
No, she said, what do we do during what activity I have them do? So if they
Okay.
have a writing task,
Okay.
I have them either start the writing task or revise it.
Mm-hmm. Alright, T at
All right. Hello. Welcome everyone. It is 3:15.
yep.
So we're gonna get started right away. Um, just so you know, the presentation is recorded. So if for some reason you missed something or you just want someone to share with someone, I will record it, and I just want to make you aware. So let's get started. So, in the chat, if you would like, you can put what school you're at, what grade level, what subject area, and any activity that you do during asynchronous time. Okay. So I'm glad to see some people that were here on Tuesday. Welcome back. All right. Well, my name is Joy Blake. And I'm a fifth grade math and science teacher. I'm going to tell you about myself. So first, the name of the our session today is Seriously Asynchronously. And when you see that title, it's really you're supposed to say it more like seriously, asynchronously, like seriously, because that is what we're going to talk about today. So, conversations about what independent work looks like in a virtual world. Okay, so just to let you know a little bit about myself, my name is Joy Blake. I'm a fifth grade math and science teacher at Shoup Academy on the far south side, and I've been teaching since 2005. I've been using Google in my classroom since 2014, and I'm a Google level 1 and 2 certified educator. Um, I will be sharing a presentation with you at the end. So if you're ever interested in going to my podcast, it's called Ain't Gonna Hurt Nobody with my husband, or I set up a YouTube channel for teaching teachers, but I really have no videos yet. But hey, you can subscribe if you like. I'm getting there. So before we get started, please make sure your microphone is muted. The same expectation you have for the kids. And remember, if you have a question, you can put it in the chat. There's a high chance that I might miss it. So if I miss your question, please don't get frustrated. I'll try my best to come back to it. And I will also have time for questions at the end. So I will have time for questions at the end of the presentation. Sorry, I'm just setting up a timer for myself. So when we move into the next part, the learning objectives. Our objectives for today is that learners will be able to understand what asynchronous learning is and learn techniques to effectively implement it in your classroom. Secondly, learners will discover digital resources to use in their classroom during asynchronous time. So I always start a session like this so that you know you're getting your money's worth. So I want to just let you know what you're going to see, how you're going to be able to use it, and why I believe it works. Okay, so what you're going to see is me showing you different resources, demonstrations, examples from my actual classroom. And how you're going to be able to use it is I will share every single resource that I show. I have a hyperlink so you can get a link. Every example, I have it set up so you can make your own copy of the example. So how you'll be able to use it is you will get the PowerPoint, you will get all the links, you will get all the resources. And I do make sure that I plug things that are free 99. So most of the stuff is free. And how I know that it works is I'm a teacher and I have tried all this stuff myself and I have been the guinea pig. So you don't have to be the guinea pig. So let's get started. So the presentation is going to be organized into 5 main questions. And the first question is, first off, what is asynchronous learning? The second question is, why am I doing it? Which is the question I literally ask myself. Why do I have to do this? The third question is, where do I start? The fourth question is, what does it look like? And my last question is, where do I go from here? So that's how the presentation will be organized. So the first question is, what is it? And I use Buzz Lightyear, 1, because I love Toy Story, and 2, because I feel like I'm on another planet when I'm trying to do the virtual learning, the asynchronous. I had never heard of synchronous, asynchronous, synchronize. I mean, I never had heard of any of this stuff before in my life. So I kind of felt like I was just exploring something new, a new planet. So I first learned about asynchronous learning specifically like this December, give or take. I had heard about it, but I implemented it for the first time around November or December. So I'm learning myself as well. So what is it? So synchronous versus asynchronous. We know synchronous learning is where students are in the live classroom. They're on the Google Meet. They're right in front of us with their cameras on or off. You know how that goes, but they're there right then and there. And then the asynchronous learning is where they're engaged in something like that. It could be independently, it could be while in class, but they're not receiving instruction during the asynchronous time. So I included some synchronous learning activities just so you can kind of figure out the difference. Because if you're doing any of these that are mentioned, then that's considered synchronous learning. So like small groups, whole group instruction, real-time feedback. Those are more synchronous activities because that's on the Google Meet, but asynchronous activities are activities where hopefully if you set them up properly, the kids don't have to ask you any questions. If the kids are asking you a lot of questions, then that means that's probably you need a different asynchronous activity, okay? So they usually include reading, taking notes, watching videos, listening to podcasts, something that you created yourself, practice and review, or reflecting on something that you've already taught. So you want your asynchronous things to be connected to the lesson that you taught that day, if possible, if you're able to do that. So let's get into the next question, which is, why am I doing this? Why am I doing it? Okay, so if you're like Buzz Lightyear and you're closing the helmet, pretend that foot is asynchronous learning and you're Buzz Lightyear, you might be thinking, why do I have to do this? I already have to do enough. I'm getting ready for hybrid learning. I got to set up my classroom. I got to grade. I got to call these parents because their kids never log on. I get it. I mean, why am I doing this? But I'm going to try to tell you why you should do it, okay? So first of all, the benefits of asynchronous learning, I set it up, there's benefits for the student, but there's also some benefits for the teacher if it's set up in the best way. So for the student, it provides them with a high degree of flexibility and autonomy. It gives the student a break from being on screen. So maybe they could change their scenery, they could change their environment during asynchronous time. It allows the students an opportunity to access content, resources, and activities at their own pace. And it also is a great way, it gives them an opportunity to go back and like review something if they were trying to teach. It's like they're teaching themselves kind of during asynchronous learning. And then asynchronous learning helps students to see a topic from a different lens. So usually for me, I'll do the whole group. But if they're watching a video, it might be showing them a different way to do something, but it's the same like topic. So that's another benefit for the student, because if they can see as many different ways to do something, that helps them to learn. Now, for the teacher, there are some benefits. It gives the teacher a break from constantly being on. And what I mean by being on is, as teachers, we're like the presenter. It's like we're the show and the kids are the audience. But with asynchronous learning, it's like they're the ones doing the work. They're the ones trying to figure it out. They're the ones trying to independently solve the problems, and you kind of can sit back and more facilitate and watch. It provides an opportunity for pre and post work to be completed. So if you have students who are really engaged, you can give them like a pre assignment, like a pre-asynchronous assignment that's connected to the whole group lesson you're going to teach. So you could be like, okay, watch this video before you come to class. And that could build a little bit of prior knowledge. And that's if you have students who, will do it. And then and you could also do the same after the lesson. Watch this video to learn more about fractions. And some kids will do that. It allows a teacher to maximize their limited synchronous time with students. So one thing we do have to realize is most kids pretty much want to be in the Google Meet. They don't really, some kids like working independently, but most kids want to be with the teacher. It's the same concept if you're an online college student. Online education is not for everybody because you're pretty much working independently. It's the same for the student. So but unfortunately, because we're remote, the kids can't be with us all the time, and they need time to complete their assignments. So if you use asynchronous time wisely, then when you do have that synchronous time when you guys are together, you can kind of like make the most of those limited minutes that you have with the kids together in class. And sometimes it can give a teacher a minute to breathe, because if the kids are trained, you'll be surprised. It'll be completely silent. They'll all be working, and maybe you could take just one breath, maybe. Okay. So if we move on, the other question is, why am I doing it? Well, you have to. Okay. So just to keep it real with you, fortunately, I mean, we have to do it. So with asynchronous learning, these are the minutes that CPS has said for each grade band. So you have to kind of try to work this into your schedule. I did include a link here for you to kind of test out the reopening policy and learn more about it. So now that you know, okay, why am I doing it? It's like, where do I start? I mean, this is already overwhelming enough. Where do I begin? What should I do first? How do I introduce this to the students? So if I'm looking, this is my asynchronous document that I received, and it kind of broke. So to me, the first place to start is with your schedule, to setting up a schedule that one works for you first and foremost, and two can work for the students. So I realized, okay, I'm a 5th grade teacher. My students had to get 155 minutes of asynchronous learning. And I have to schedule 124 minutes for myself. So what I did, here's a sample schedule that I got from one teacher. So they have the do now for about 30 minutes and the we do. So for 30 minutes, they're doing whole group instruction and the do now. And then they're doing their centers, small group. And then for 30 minutes from 9:15 to 9:45, they're doing asynchronous learning, and they're monitoring the students, like, okay, do a vocabulary video. They're monitoring the students for 30 minutes, and then the students come back and they do like a lesson closure or an exit ticket. For me, this is my actual schedule that I set up for my asynchronous time. And it's pretty much similar, where we do small groups, and then right after small groups, we do asynchronous time. and the kids work. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. Do I get 30 minutes every day? No, I don't. But if you just even get 15 minutes in, that's a start. So because I had to get 155 minutes, that means I have 2 math classes, and each math class has to get 30 minutes a day of asynchronous. And then in my science class, technically they're supposed to get 15 minutes of asynchronous time. So it's important that you kind of like think about your schedule. How are you going to fit that in? And what are you going to have the students to do? And and I gave a link to that schedule also for you to help you out with that. So the first step, I put easy setup, but that's just kind of being sarcastic, but it is something that you have to set up. So what I do in my class is I have a topic in my Google Classroom that's set up for asynchronous learning. So when the kids come in, they know right away, okay, when I go to math, I created a topic that is just geared basically towards asynchronous learning. And then something else that I found that helped the kids is that whenever I could put a title in front of the assignment, I always put asynchronous time as well. So it's like doubly clear for them to like understand, don't do this early, do this during asynchronous time. Because you will have that random kid that's, the perfectionist and tries to do all the work before class. So here's some examples. Another thing I did is I set up an agenda for the students. So the students, I'll show you some examples so that I get irritated when I get like constant questions of the same thing I already said. So I try to make it as clear as possible what you're supposed to be doing at this time. So here's one example of an agenda that I use. And this title part is like their groups, but it just kind of like, it has the hyperlink. All they got to do is click that link and do the assignment. That's it. And I know it's irritating when they're constantly asking for the link, but I have just grown to accept that I'm just going to give them the link. It just is what it is. And then here's another example. Every day we have an agenda that I do with the students. So all I have to do, instead of giving them like 3 links for something, I'm just giving them 1 link to their agenda, and all the other links are within that agenda. If that makes so. Like so all they do is they come in, it tells them what they're doing for the day. Then they can click on Monday and boom, here's the link for their asynchronous time. Just click that. Because really, if you think about it, during a school day, if you gave a kid every link, you giving out about five links a class. So if it's some way that you can just like modify the links into one spot, that's why I did like the agenda like this to help the students out. And it says like every day of the week what they're doing, and they can, and also the small group. And then this is just an example that I haven't used this yet, but if you're really like that top-notch teacher and you want to like tell them about their week, like tell them what's coming out. This is another form of an agenda. Oh, it's taking a very long time to load. Okay. Oh, there we go. So it tells them the weekdays, what they're doing. You could give them agenda, like what they're doing today, but then it breaks it up. So like if you want to give them instructions, like make a video of yourself doing instructions. If you want to like tell them what they're doing, it's just like a different format. That's also a way. So then I just get kind of, for me, I don't like when kids are constantly asking me questions. So I'm trying to figure out ways to limit that, if that makes sense. So with asynchronous learning, the main thing is you need to make sure that you have it set up so that the kids are independent. Like they know where to go independently, they know what to do independently, and they know how to turn it in independently. So I would recommend, if you don't have a Go Guardian set up Go Guardian, because I don't know. And even though Go Guardian has kinks, because if a kid has their own personal computer, you can't see what they're doing. But constantly during asynchronous time, I'm calling kids out like, Malik, you should be on vocabulary. Tyreek, you should be here. Like I'm constantly saying where they should be. I'm constantly sending them messages on Go Guardian. And I send the same messages in the chat. And then one thing I would say is just present your screen, so that they know that you're watching them. I mean, not for a long time, but you could do this for short increments, just so they know, like, oh, she's serious. Like, let me get to this work. She's not just giving me something to do. It's like busy work. And unfortunately, like, asynchronous time and getting the kids to do it is gonna take training. It's gonna take training from your end as a teacher, and you're gonna have to train the kids. So asynchronous learning also depends largely on the capability of the students to do their own work. If you know the kids pretty much can't do their own work, it's gonna take time to get them in the flow of it, and you kind of have to accept that. So teachers will have to prepare students for asynchronous learning. This might add to your workload. Not that it might, it's going to add to the workload. So with asynchronous, it is a lot of skill building, academic and self-regulation in order for the students to strive. So here's some expectations that I had to think of when I really implemented it. Was how I want them to access the assignments. That's when I came up with the agenda. How I want them to ask questions. So if you don't mind them unmuting constantly and asking questions, then that works for you. But I found that when I allowed that, they were just like nonstop just trying to talk. So I prefer that they know I'm muting now. So during asynchronous time, they can turn off their camera. Ms. Blake is going to be muted. And the only way you can communicate with me is in the chat or on Go Guardian. Like, that's it. And then figuring out what time it'll be. Will you let them unmute and unmute? I kind of said that already. How do they turn in the work? And one thing I did notice is with older students, they know how to mute the tab. So they know how to like mute the Google Meet. So you want to make sure that you figure out a way to let them know it's time, asynchronous time is over, you need to come back. And usually how I do that is I use an announcement, like the announcement feature in Go Guardian. So what does it look like? It can look in a lot of different ways. I already showed this slide, but to me, these 8 things are pretty much what you should just stick to. Don't try to create your own stuff. Don't try to be fancy. It's too much we're dealing with. So my advice is to keep it as simple as you possibly can. Even if they do the same thing every day, that's a start. Just stick with that. So for asynchronous time, my top 3 is they do notes and read. They might do an activity that I've created or something I got from Teachers Pay Teacher, or they'll practice and review something. What I found is the physical book goes a long way, and I just make the kids take pictures of the work that they do. So if they're working in the book, I'll make them take a picture in their Chromebook and submit that as an assignment. So it'll just be like an assignment in Google Classroom, submit your picture. And it'll be a picture of the work. If you want to spend money, there's an app called Seesaw, and it does the same thing, but you have to pay. So I just make them take their own picture and submit it in Google Chrome. Usually your books will have a digital website, and they'll have a lot of asynchronous activities that you can have the students do. Like I use Envision, and they have like a practice buddy thing. It's about 25 questions. Do I have example of the notes? I don't, not in this one, but I do have like guided notes. But I know on Teachers Pay Teachers, there's a lot of digital. I just discovered the digital component, and that's off the chain. If you're not using the digital, like they can work on it and type on it live. That's a great resource, and I put a link for asynchronous type work. Of course, we know that educational videos and podcasts, kids do like listening to podcasts. I love NPR myself. So kids, you believe that they will listen. And I put a link to this, to like the 101 podcasts for teachers that you can use. But pretty much my go-to videos are Vocabulary, Brain Pop, and Khan Academy, because they cover almost every subject. And then on top of it, their videos are pretty good. And Vocabulary and Brain Pop, they have enough activities to keep a kid busy for like an hour. If you have a kid watch one video on vocabulary, they can do the video, the quiz, make a movie, they can make vocabulary cards, just go, go, go. You busy, get to work. So my advice is to use these three. And right now they are free, but technically, I don't know, CPS will drop that the contract with these, but these are not free services except for Khan. So while you have the opportunity to use vocabulary and Brain Pop, you really should. So, and also I put some fun in games. So during asynchronous time, I'll usually give them like one assignment to do and then like one game online to play. And that keeps them going. So when they're done with the one assignment, then you get to play the game. So that's something that I do. So the next question is, where do I go from here? Where do I go from here? And it might be feeling like, and I put to infinity and beyond, but I'm just going to Starbucks regularly at this point. I'm sorry, I had to say that for myself. But yeah, let's figure out, where do we go from here? What are the next steps? So the next steps, in my opinion, if you're trying to set this up consistently, is let the parents know. Whether you call them, send a reminder, or put in the newsletter. What I found is for some reason, I got the most contact from parents because they thought their kids were like not doing the work. They thought, oh, where's Miss Blake? Why isn't the Google Meet on the screen? What's going on? Why are you watching it? Like, so the parents do need to be involved. And I would just let them know. Another thing is I remind the students about it constantly. Like I show it, even though I feel like I've shown it to them how to do this 100 bazillion times, I just keep doing it, keep giving them the links. You just have to swallow it down. As irritating as it is, it's just how it goes. And I would just say, give yourself an adequate amount of time to get started. I'm going to come back to this one. Like maybe you want to start in the third quarter. Like don't stress out about this. Give yourself enough time to get started, to get stuff set up, to know the structure. It took me like a lot of time to set this up. And then it's a lot of trial and error. So I would say, like, take your time. Don't be hard on yourself. So one important thing is just to create also a system to track it, to track what the kids are doing. For me, I created like a check-in system for the kids on Google Sheets, and I gave you a copy of this as well. But basically what I do is whatever the assignment is, like for instance, on Monday, they have vocabulary fractions. On Tuesday, they had equivalent fractions. On Wednesday, they had to go to Con. And then on Thursday, they had to do Brain Pop. These were the asynchronous assignments. But every day I check off whether they did it or not. Like, I'm not going to put this in a grade book. It takes too much time, but it doesn't really take that long to put that little checkbox, because one, vocabulary, Brain Pop, Khan Academy, they'll automatically tell you if the kid did it. That's why I suggest that you use those three, because not only will they tell you that the kid logged in and completed the work, but sometimes they'll grade it for you too. So those are two. It just makes your life easier. Whereas if you give them a worksheet that you made, like, you got to check that worksheet. No, so that's why I suggest. So this is my the check-in system that I use, and then at the end of the week, I'll give them a grade, and then this will be the grade I'll enter into Aspen, so that I'm not putting in all these grades, because that can be overwhelming as well. Next, I know I said this already, but I'm going to reiterate it again. Just what I found that has helped to get kids on task is to constantly present my screen. I really have found that works. When I call them out, like, Justine, you're not on vocabulary. I see that. And then another thing I forgot to say with Go Guardian, but with Go Guardian, something that I do is I'll close their tabs. Like, I'll constantly, so if it's asynchronous time and they're on Dreambox or they're on Stride or wherever, or they're on looking up well, who do they look up all the time? I don't know. I'm not even gonna get into it. But they're on Google looking up some random stuff. I won't block the site, but I will close the tab so that they know, like, one, I'm watching you, and two, get the vocabulary, because a lot of Netflix. Today I saw a kid on Hulu. I was like, dang, I should have thought to block Hulu. I didn't. But anyways, the point is that you have to close these tabs, especially during asynchronous time, so they know, okay, I got to do this assignment. It's important, because I notice a lot of kids think, oh, it's free time. She's not watching us. One last thing that we started in the new year, well, towards the end of the new year, was to block off a time for asynchronous time as well. So if you have it in your class, we've also blocked off like a time period. Like my son is in kindergarten and they have independent work time from 11:15 until 12:30, 12:45. That's a big chunk of time to be working asynchronously. So they set their day up so that he has his 2 classes in the morning, asynchronous time, 1 more class, asynchronous time. So if your principal will let you, consider blocking the schedule off. It might make your day a little bit smoother. So something that I do is that we block off Fridays from 1:45 to 2:45 for asynchronous time, and just think of it like a virtual study hall, basically. So how we set it up is we give the students, we share this document with the students. And I gave this to you as well if you want to make a copy of it. But we share this on Google Classrooms. And then we also like put it in the link in the chat, or put the link in the chat for them. And basically what they do is it gives, these are the assignments you have to finish for math and reading. We do it every Friday from 1:45 to 2:45. And I shared this with my co-teacher, so we both just update it. And then if you look here, usually it's a link right here for them to go to. Like if they have questions for Ms. Blake, they can click this link and come to my office hours. If they have questions for my co-teacher, they can click here and go to her office hours. And then I'll give them the assignments they need to work on. And just to like save me time, I put the links. Like if you really don't want to talk to kids like that during this time, you got to give them the links, because that's all they're going to ask for. You're wasting your breath saying, I put the link in Google Classroom, go to Google. They not going to do it. You just got to accept. I don't know why. It's super annoying, but they not. So I put the link to Dreambox where I want, and I'll put their name. So here's the 2 classes, and here's the kids who need to do this stuff. And then also we put any missing assignments. We'll put the assignment, a link to the assignment, and what they need to do. And then for if they don't see their name, we'll give them a list of things that they can do. So there's no kid, because you'll have parents who will be like, my kid just is sitting and doing nothing for an hour. So you just want to make sure you have something for that exceptional kid who has actually finished all their work. And also, so we do it for reading and social studies, and that's the same thing. So it's a template. You don't have to do this, but it might help, because I don't know if I'm the only one, but I have discovered that there's a lot of students who are not turning in their assignments. There were A students when they were in school, but for some reason when they're at home, it's a completely different story. So I would suggest giving them this time. You'd be surprised. A lot of them will come to you like, what am I missing? What do I need to do? Like they really do use the time to do the work. I also included some teacher resources for you. I always like to do this to help just in general with your everyday life. If you haven't downloaded the Elmo interactive tool, I recommend downloading that, because that allows you, okay, Miss Jump, she got it. That allows you to write on worksheets. It allows you to have a whiteboard. It allows you to take pictures, record, and even though you might not have your physical Elmo, but it helps. So I put a link to that. Cami, we all know about it. Lets you write on worksheets. Toy Theater has games. And Pear Deck, Pear Deck can be an asynchronous assignment, but the only thing is after you use the student, where the student can do it by themselves too many times, they want you to pay. So that's the only that's the only caveat with Pear Deck. So I have a love-hate relationship with Pear Deck right now because they starting to try to make me pay. But if you look at, and QuillGo will give you allows you to put a timer on assignments. So if you have asynchronous assignments and you want them to only do it for the time of asynchronous time, you could add this timer to a Google form, and that's how they could do the assignment. And I also gave keyboard shortcuts. The main keyboard shortcut I recommend is Alt and then the bracket key, because that allows the kids to have one screen with the Google Meet and one screen with what they're working on. So if you teach the kids how to do Alt bracket, that's going to be a game changer for them. But this has, I think, over 101 shortcuts for teachers. So this is the resources I use. And now it is time for feedback because I want to leave some time for questions. So if you fill out the feedback form, I'm going to put the link in the chat. Just give me about, 30 seconds. But if you fill this out, you will receive 1 ISB credit for attending the session. And also, I appreciate your feedback so that I can give you guys what you need in the future. Just give me one moment. I'm having a slight technical difficulty getting this to pull up. Okay. All right, so here's a link in the chat for you to complete the evaluation form and receive your credit. Also, I have to always plug myself. I put the link twice just in case somebody missed it. I have to plug myself. I will be doing more presentations. So if you enjoyed this, I'll be doing another one on Tuesday about setting up small groups. Tuesday, January 19th, and it'll be the 3:15 and 4:15 time, and then 42 Fs, which is how many Fs I actually did have at one point, and I had 52 students, so just do the math on that. But how ways to encourage, the remote student. So those are the two things. So I'm gonna put, if you're interested, I'll put the link to that as well in the chat. Just give me one. It's harder than I thought to do this part, but I can do this. All right. So here's a link to the flyer. And on the flyer, it has the link that you need to, sign up. Some of the stuff, of course, will repeat. So I'm just going to say that now. And thank you. Okay. Pretend that you're Buzz Lightyear and all those things on top of him are all the things that are stressing you out every day. And look, you're just pushing them away. Look at you. Okay, so thank you. And remember, you got this. You can do it. We're gonna make it through. Are there any questions? That's the end of my session. All right. Oh, Shauna Hall.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, can you repost the link for the presentation?
Oh, I'm sorry. Sure. I think I actually did not put that in there. I'm very sorry.
Thank you.
No problem.
Joy, you have a couple of questions in the chat.
Okay. Thank you, Miss Emery. Okay, here is the presentation. Okay, everything's hyperlinked for you guys. All right, let's go through the chat. Could you give the link for the presentation? Okay, with readings. I got that from Miss Taylor. Hi, Miss Taylor. Do you have samples of your reading taking notes? I'm sorry, I really don't. But pretty much for reading, I just use like the graphic organizers. And those go a long way for taking notes. And there's a lot of those on Teachers Pay Teachers. Are there any other questions? Is this hard? I don't want to miss anybody. I see Ms. Hall has her hand up. Are there any questions I missed?
Ms. Hicks had a question about suggestions for preschool.
Oh, preschool. Okay. The what I've noticed, and I have studied. I should have put some in here, but I have studied my son, because he's in kindergarten, and he has independent work time. Like I said, from 11:15 to 12:45, and pretty much what they have him doing is taking. He works out of a book, and they have him taking the picture and then submitting the picture. But of course, as an adult, I have to help him like nonstop. But in the beginning, he couldn't do it. But by this point, he's able to take like a picture of his assignment. They use Seesaw, but it does cost money, because the kids can write on it and stuff like that. But I found that Pear Deck is pretty good as well for pre-K. It's just that after you use it so many times, you will have to pay. And he's able to watch videos. So they have like a very, I can show you, I should have put choice boards on here, in hindsight. But something that I do and something that I saw that my son's class does is they do choice boards. And the kids can choose what they want to work on. So this is one I have for the Tulsa Race Massacre that occurred. And like the kids can choose, like they can either choose. So basically every day during independent time, they can pick like 2 things that they do. And then you have like a list of things that they can choose from. So here's like an example of something that I might do during like I plan on doing during Black History Month, is that they can choose to learn, and they're learning about the Tulsa Race Massacre, but like this is a movie, this is an article, this is a podcast, this takes them to a website, this teaches them about vocabulary, this is a math activity. And my son's pre-K, like that's basically all. Well, he's in kindergarten. That's all that they do is like choice boards. Like they'll do scholastic news. They'll be like play with your Legos and build something, and he actually does it. So if you can think of like 9 activities that they can choose to do, and some of them they can repeat. Like they have the link to Go Noodle, and they'll be like do a Go Noodle, and that's like a choice. But the choice boards, I found that the kids, they like having choice, and they usually will do the activity because they get to pick. Another activity that I do is determine your own grade. And this can be done with pretty much anything, but it's similar to the choice board. Like you give them, like I'll give them 10. Well, this one, I think I gave them 15 activities, and then they decide what grade they get. So you tell them like, oh, if you do 10 activities, you get an A+, 9, you'll get an A-, 8, you'll get a B. If you do 7, you'll get a C, 6 is a D, or 5 or less is a F. And you just give that to them on Monday, and then tell them on Friday, however many activities you did, that's your grade for asynchronous time. Like those are some of the activities. I probably should have put that in the presentation, but I didn't. But those are some of the activities. I'm sorry. But those are some of the activities that I found have been helpful. For pre-K, I'm sorry, I wish I had more, but I will say that the website that I did put in the presentation, Flippity, there's a website, Flippity, that website has, and that's on this page, that website has a lot of activities that kids can do. I mean, it has word searches, it has clocks. I mean, it has a lot that you can use as a teacher and then assign to the kids. So that's one. And then Toy Theater, I like that site a lot for little kids. Are there any other questions? I know I talked about that for a long time. Are there any other questions about async, or are there any, this is your time to vent. Are there any challenges that you're finding that you're facing during this time?
Joy, there.
Let's jump. Go ahead.
My biggest challenge is like trying to do reading groups and, telling group of kids, okay, you're going to work on these boom cards until I get back, and I'm trying to do my small group, and then kids are disappearing on me, and like it's like such a mess. Like you wouldn't just walk out of my room if I was teaching. Why are you walking away from the computer right now?
It's very true. Yes, now the kids leaving, I don't have a solution for that. The only solution I do is if I see that if I can even catch it, because sometimes I don't even notice until the end. But if I do catch that they left and they're still on Go Guardian, I'll block their screen. So they can't, at least if you're not gonna be in my class, you can't be on your computer. But I mean, that's not the best punishment because they have PlayStation 5. So doesn't matter. Are there any other things that people would like to vent about, talk about?
Hey, thank you for this. I was gonna say I don't have asynchronous time, and I don't even know if that's like an illegal thing, but I teach 5th and 6th grade math, and so every time that I'm synchronous, I'm with 5th grade, and then I'm like flipping to 6th grade, and then with 5th grade, and so when they're offline, either they're with another teacher or they're offline, and they're offline by themselves. I'm never available to be on with them. So
Oh, well, I would say like asynchronous time, you don't have to technically like be there to moderate it. You can, that's where that like agenda comes in. It would just be like, here's your asynchronous agenda, and you need to have this in by Friday. Like they do asynchronous, they can do that independently at their own pace.
okay, that's what we do now. I was just like, am I hearing something different?
Yeah, no, for my
okay.
like every school is different, but I know like for my school, we had to like fit it in the actual like day of the lesson. But
Yeah.
if you can for instance, when my son is doing it from 11:15 to 12:30, he's not with a teacher at all, but he has like an agenda that he like follows.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, sure, no problem. Are there any other questions, discussions, venting time?
I just have a comment that I like that you shared that with the agenda, putting the hyperlinks on the agenda, because I've added some things to the Google Stream. I put some links on there for the kids. And so maybe it'll be a little bit more organized. I just put it on an agenda. So thanks for sharing that. And then question, what was that alt bracket? What is that for again?
I'll put it in the chat, but if the child, it only works if they have a Chromebook. But if you have the kids hit alt and then the bracket key like that, it's gonna make like a double screen. So they could, I shouldn't say a double screen, but it's like automatically splits their screen so they can have 2 tabs or 2 windows side by side. So they can see one, they can see you, and on this one they can see like the work that they're doing. And then Miss Taylor, even though like I put all the work in Google Classroom just like you on the stream, but I don't know why they don't go on Google Classroom. It's right there. But I don't know. Yeah. Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I have to go to the next session. I appreciate you coming.
Awesome job.
Great evening. Thank you so much. Have a good
you.
evening. No
Thanks
problem.
for sharing.
No problem. Thank you. Have a good evening. Okay,